people who are taking drugs out there, it's not about how you are gonna caught, it's just about when.
I've sat on a ledge a few times, you know, telling myself, why do I need to go through this? Might as well just jump.
Hi, I'm Sharda Harrison and welcome to SG Now. Now, before I introduce our CityJo with us in the house, I want to talk about Singapore's tough rules, strict sentences. Well, because of that, we also have one of the lowest reoffending rates in the world. But life after prison, what is that like? So today in the house, we have with us CityJo Bruce.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Yo, yo, yo. It's always good to see you. We also
Likewise.
have nice to see you. We also have our guests in the house today, Samuel and
Hello.
Popo.
Hello.
Hey guys.
Hi.
How are you both doing?
Good.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah. I love how you both are dressed. Very different, very individualistic, right? One's in the blazer, Samuel, and I love your earrings. It's really, really
thank you.
cool.
Your jacket also lovely.
Thank you. Okay, so Samuel and Popo, you're both ex-offenders who now use your life and your experiences to help other people and inspire them, right? So today we've come together to have a chat about that. Like, what is life like after prison? How to rebuild yourself? And I know that, Bruce, I mean, you've done a lot of public speaking. You've come out and shared your journey in prison, life after prison, right? So I'm just going to invite all of you one by one to kind of just share who you are and what your story is, because everyone has a story. Shall we start with Samuel?
Yeah, okay, my name is Samuel. I came from a place, some of you may or may not know, called IMH, Institute of Mental Health. But I didn't go there for mental issues this time. Actually, I was admitted once for mental issue, but this one was more to kick my drug habit, detoxification. Spent 3 weeks there, and after I still remember the first morning when they accepted me to High Point to be a resident there. You know, if you have used drugs before, you know, Bruce and Popo, if you used drugs before, you know what happens when you wake up in the morning. First thing that comes to your mind, you need to get a fix. And that was the day when I woke up that morning in High Point. I realized I had freedom, no? That freedom was so precious to me. Until today, I can still remember that time then. But I can still smell that morning, no? It was 6 o'clock in the morning. I can still smell the grass, the not weed, grass.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, because when I say grass, people will have a lot of thinking because, okay, marijuana is also grass, it's also weed. So basically, what happened is that I can still actually smell the air, so fresh. And I told myself, this is the kind of life I want to actually continue. That every morning, I want to wake up without being, having to struggle to find my next fix, to put something foreign inside my body to make me feel normal. So that was it.
I mean, you were quite public with your story. You came out in an article, Salt and Light, if I'm not wrong,
Yes.
right? And you know, the way you describe how you finally kicked or stopped the addiction to drugs was on June the 16th. And exactly how you described it, that's what the article said. You woke up one morning and you smelt the crisp air for the first time. Also, in the article, you talk about your childhood and growing up, you know, in a big family, right? How many siblings did you have?
Actually, plus my parents will be 9 of us. We grew up in a very small house in Balestier Road. You know, Balestier Road quite well known that time. I think maybe Bruce, Paikia, they will know. Basically, that one is the 2-4, the gang 2-4 enclave. So one of my role I still remember I did one time was that because of the gang fights, they use poles. They use poles or parang. So my job is to because they are afraid that the police they will run when the police come. So they need somewhere to dispose of the poles and the parang. But then at that time these things are very expensive. Not like now they just throw. So my job is to when they throw because my house is located on the back lane. right? So I'll just pick up the parangs or the po and take it, and then I wipe. Sometimes there'll be blood, there'll be stuff.
That was your job.
Yeah, there's some people say maybe it's due to this trauma that I end up. I don't know. For me, I took drugs more because at the time. It was the hip thing to do. Maybe not now. It was a very hip. I think some of those who have grown around my gen will remember the hippie generation.
Yeah.
Everybody keeping long hair, listening to rock music, free love, the kind of thing. So it was
Yeah.
very exciting times.
One of the best generations, I have to say.
Okay. Yeah, that generation refused to grow old. Even now, you look at all the music, very influenced by them.
And
yeah.
look at you, you still look so young.
Thank you so much.
And actually dressed the most hip, right? Even like blazer,
Really, yeah?
sneaker.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow, okay, but that's quite an incredible story there. What an incredible story. What about you, Popo? What's your story?
In terms of drugs, I guess I used to use it to escape, but I wasn't really aware of it. So it was always like, oh, I just do it because I'm bored or I got nothing to do. But I think that what I was really doing was like trying to escape, like how I feel and stuff. And those feelings are still reoccurring at this point, even though I'm off drugs. But like, yeah, it's really hard. I would say that it's a compilation of like child abuse and a lot of like traumatic memories combined together. Finally, I just want to shut off or feel something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda
And it
like-
works.
And it worked.
And it works. Like when you're consuming it. So that's why I just want to do it and do it and do it and do it.
And that's kind of at the point. Was there any point when you were, going down that path to run away from the trauma, going into drugs where you were afraid or frightened that you might be losing your life?
I think that like in comparison with the trauma that I feel, right, I think that the drugs was doing me more justice than the way I felt.
Right.
So I chose to take the path of like numbing how I feel compared to feeling how I
How
felt.
you were feeling at the time.
Like in my point of view though, yeah.
This is a personal question, but what did you feel like when then this feeling of escapism with drugs that for you was a positive effect landed you in prison where you had to do time?
I mean, obviously there is a consequence. Like, just wanted to give a personal opinion for people who are taking drugs out there. It's not about how you are kena caught. It's just about when. Apart from that, I feel like you don't really think of that at that period of time. You know what I mean? You just think about like, oh, your next high, the shock you feel, the escape. Like you don't think of it as an escape when you're doing it. For you, it's like, wow, shock sia. Like you're just doing it. But like. You don't think of all these things until you get caught lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the kind of thoughts that I feel, I think of a lot of personal stuff like my dad kicking me when I was young. I would fly as a child, like
Gosh.
getting kicked by a grown man and stuff like that.
Wow, thank you for being so honest with us, Popo.
I think it's important that I'm honest because I think that I'm not the only one going through this.
Yeah. I agree with you on
Just
that
not
one.
many people talk about the kind of abuses they have at home.
Yeah. Bruce, what's your story?
For me, like Paul, I did have a traumatic past. Come from a single parent family, only child. Dad left when I was very young. Mom had to go out to work all the time. Few of my uncles were alcoholics. When my mom was away at work, come home drunk, call up their wives or anything, I would get it. But my story of how I got into drugs was not because of the trauma. Mine was out of curiosity. Back then, in the 70s and 80s, heroin was the in thing. So at the age of 13, out of boredom, I joined a gang, and shortly into joining a gang, just 3 months, I was introduced to the first stick of weed. And because I loved it high, I had to pay the price for the next 30 years. There is this thing on the outside going now saying that weed is not a gateway drug.
What do you mean by gateway drug?
Meaning, when you take weed, it will not lead to you becoming addicted to drugs, or weed will not lead you to other forms of drugs.
Right.
For me, that is utter nonsense.
I agree
Because
with you, man.
you think about it, weed was a gateway drug for me. I tried it, I loved it. that piqued my curiosity. I started thinking, if weed could get me this high, what would be the high of heroin be like? And then one thing led to another, and there you have it, 30 years wasted, either in drugs or behind bars.
Do you really think that it was 30 years wasted?
There are always two sides to a coin. You can either look at the side where I have wasted most of my adulthood and a good part of my teens due to drugs, or I could take it as a form of experience which has opened up doors for me that is not open for other people.
Yeah.
But that being said, think about this, Sharda. 30 years.
It's a long time.
Exactly.
30 years is a long
30
time.
years is a long time. Personally, I would not want anybody to be in my shoes.
Were you 30 years straight or in and out?
In and out.
Gosh.
Even those times when I was on the outside, I was still in drugs. Yeah. So
And 30 years addicted to drugs, basically.
let's see, 13 to now I'm 53. You do the math. I've been out more than 10. All in all, I've not taken drugs for 10 years.
Okay.
But if you ask me, am I a recovered addict? I would tell you no. I think Samuel would agree. The answer is no. Sad to say, I would forever be a recovering addict. Because my belief is the day I lower my guards, that would be the start of my downfall.
Well, thank you so much, all three of you, for being so honest and sharing your stories with us. And now we're going to talk about what it's like reclaiming your life back, what life is like after prison. So stay tuned for part 2.